What's up? What's going on? We are here. The promised land is almost upon us. It is time for the last week of the regular season before the playoffs. And this season has been maybe the best in league history. Season 13, 13, the unlucky number, has been just surreal in terms of the competitiveness. The standings you see before you reflect 9 teams with the possibility of making the playoffs, and most of them, as you'll see kind of midway through our show, control their own destiny. So, what's going on, guys? It's the Fantasy Football JC Penny podcast. Sean Fitzgerald, your host. Jerry LeBlanc, my co-host. As always, as is tradition, if you have fantasy football questions, start them or sit them. There's not going to be any trade questions anymore because trade deadlines must have passed at this point. But start them or sit them, waiver wire. It's Tuesday. We're doing this on a Tuesday, so if you have waiver wire questions, just comment in the chat. We've got several of our league members, Jason Smith, Brad Putman, already in the chat, I know. So, without...
Brad in the chat, someone break down his path to the playoffs.
Oh, no, I'm going to. Don't worry. I've got a plan for Brad. You're gonna hear after we do our typical Week 13 recap. We're gonna go into every team's path to the playoffs, and don't worry, Brad, I've got you covered. So, without further ado, as is tradition, we're gonna get right into the Week 13 recap with the Commissioners team. What's my win streak at now?
Like 7 games, like absurd.
6-game win. No, sorry, 6-game win streak. It's still 6-game win streak continues. Actually, it might be 7. I don't know if the standings are right. I feel like I won 7 in a row. Wow.
I mean, you can literally look at the standings and it'll tell you.
I did, and it says 6, but I think it's 7. It feels like 7.
It feels like 7.
After starting, it's a 6-game win streak, but after starting off 0-4, I have come back with a vengeance, and now the number 1 seed is within my grasp. And I gotta be honest, I got out of this one with the skin of my teeth.
I was expecting. Obviously, everyone expected you to win. You only needed 6 points out of Josh Allen.
Well, at that point, but beforehand.
But I will say though, like the whole thing where Zach posted how Josh Allen was hurt, and you're like, no, it doesn't matter. I got Mac Jones, who put up half a point because he threw 3 passes.
I mean, in their defense, right? Like the weather was terrible. We were at the Caps game getting these sweet T-shirts.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just funny that you're like, oh no, I got a backup plan, and then your backup plan would have failed so miserably.
I mean, absolutely. But again, I think both Allen and Mac Jones were hindered by the terrible weather in Buffalo, the up to 50 to 55 mile an hour winds. Obviously, that makes a passer's life difficult. I had
the ball 30 times.
I had some other issues. Joe Burrow got injured midway through the game and played through what seemed to be like a broken pinky or some kind of issue with his finger. Jalen Waddle went out mid-game, but it turned out just to be cramps. This game, Darnell Mooney put up 5.2 at my flex, and I could have easily started Van Jefferson to get a little bit more. I was fortunate to get out of this with a win, and it's in large part due to Mixon also had some injury issues. Zeke has been underperforming.
I had a talk with Jason about a lot of different trades, and he on 4 or 5 different occasions but what if we did Zeke and Pollard? And it was after the 4th time I was like, dude, I don't want anything to do with that guessing game. And what happens? Pollard goes out there and puts up 14.5, and Ezekiel Elliott still looks like the second best running back in that offense.
I mean, the question is, does he starting Pollard? I don't think you can.
I just don't know how you. I don't know how you start either one at this point.
Yeah, it's rough, and he has depth, but it's definitely he has less. He has Alvin Kamara because of the Darryl trade, but yeah. It's definitely there's some yellow flags creeping in with Jason's powerhouse team. Tyreek Hill had himself a bad day.
Yeah, I sat here and I said it his team looks too good. The fantasy gods won't allow it. It happened 3 weeks earlier than I thought it would. But Jason's team is going to come down to earth. It looked too good.
Well, this was a... So think about this. If he had won this game, right? If he had won, it would literally be an 8-way tie at 7-6 with McMillan also, at 6-7.
As soon as I put the poll up, Jason immediately voted no on that thing. I was like, it only happens if we have the 8-way tie up top. And Jason, this is the karma that you get for immediately voting no on that. you didn't get to be a part of that 7-win group.
We'll talk about playoff scenarios later, obviously, but this is certainly, I mean, this game had every game has a huge impact on the standings now, but this game certainly, I mean, puts me in a major driver's seat moving forward.
No, like,
puts Jason in a major
you're guaranteed a playoff spot. Like,
yeah, and the only team so far, I think, that's guaranteed, I believe.
I will say that I don't remember a time when, like, going into the last week, every single playoff spot was still up for grabs. Yeah. Usually, like, at least 2 people have locked in their spots and people are fighting for buys.
Yeah, and there are still the buys are still very much up in the air. Certainly Alex and I have inside tracks, but the buys are still very much up in the air, but only one playoff team is locked and only one playoff team is eliminated. Everything else is wide open. So moving on to Daryl pulling off an upset over Window. And I say upset in the sense of like their records. And I guess kind of total points scored a little bit. But, like, I felt like Daryl's team had underperformed due to injury. I felt like Window's team had kind of gotten some squeaky wins. And now, all of a sudden, Daryl gets a big win. They're both even in the standings. Window still is clear on points scored by, like, 70, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that.
But it certainly was you and Daryl were in double must-win situations where you basically just had to win out your last 2 games.
I was in that before that, though. I knew I needed a 4-game winning streak to end the season and make the playoffs. Like, that's just where I was.
But
when I was sitting at 4-6, I knew that was going to be the case.
But the big redeemer here for Daryl, George Kittle coming through in a big way.
I mean, it didn't matter if he had like an 8-point day, he was still getting the win.
Sure.
But I mean, he got Taysom Hill, gets 20 points out of that. Like, despite 4 interceptions, I don't think Taysom Hill is going to do that again. He left some points on the bench. I don't know. Like, you look up and down at Daryl's team. Does it scare you? Like, he had a big week.
Right? Like, no but. On one hand, like, obviously on paper, like, this is the exact opposite of Jason's team, right? Like, this is like a team of players who, if you say that this is your fantasy football team going, like, after the draft, you're like, well, you drafted terribly. But, like, these are also guys who Elijah Moore has been a surprise all year. Cordell Patterson has been a surprise all year. Carson Wentz has been serviceable for the most part. Taysom Hill, obviously now that he's starting, has upside. So Daryl's team, I will tell you, I'm playing Daryl this coming week, and I'm not looking forward to it. I have some bye week issues, which is the major reason why.
You'll be fine. You're guaranteed the playoffs. You'll be. I'm saying you're gonna be fine, win or lose. You're guaranteed a playoff spot. You're fighting for a bye. You're fine. Quit complaining.
All right, fair enough.
80% of the league is out here fighting for their goddamn lives, and you're over here like, I don't like that I have to play Daryl next week.
Listen, first world fantasy problems. So Window, on the other hand, here's the most confusing thing for Window that I saw. Alex was very unhappy that, and we'll get to McMillan later on the Daryl Henderson bit, but like Sony Michel, wide open, Window with no budget, snags him on the waiver wire, but doesn't start him. And I don't know that you would have over, I mean, like, Javonte Williams still did great.
If you know Daryl Henderson's not playing, maybe. I need to see his running backs. I'm opening it up right now.
His running backs are Antonio Gibson, who put up 19.6. James Robinson, who put up 2.
You're not starting. Yeah, you're not starting Sony Michel. I had Sony Michel for the first, 8 weeks of the season, and he couldn't get a carry.
Right.
Like, you don't expect, oh, well, Daryl Henderson goes down. Sony Michel is going to be super relevant all of a sudden. Like, he got 20 carries in week 3, and he didn't even get 10 points. Like,
So with that said, there's really not much Window could do. Devontae Parker had a good day on his IR, but is back in the rotation and was targeted a bunch in his IR. But I mean, like the big
I
issue.
don't think you're starting him over James Robinson.
No, not at all. I'm not saying he made any bad managerial decisions that I would have started the same lineup he did. But the big problem for Window all season long has been Patrick Mahomes is not playing like a number 2 overall pick where he drafted him. Patrick Mahomes has been I would say more of a liability than an asset this season.
So through the first 4 weeks, he was amazing. Since then, it's just been
Do you know?
not what
Do you know? Do you know who has a better passer rating than Patrick Mahomes? Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, no, like obviously, like Mahomes had a stretch through the season here where he was playing absolutely awful. Like pretty much weeks like 7 through 9, he he just looked terrible. He's completing like 55% of his passes, and he can't throw a touchdown pass to save his life. I will say though, the amount of interceptions that are just Tyreek Hill can't catch the fucking ball is amazing. I feel like it's like 4 or 5 times this year it bounces right off his hands into a defender's arms.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has had a higher than normal share of picks, but like it's his stat line also hasn't been impressive. Like he's had a couple games where he's boomed, like I think 3 games this year where he's boomed. He's had, but the major issue is there have been 4 games, really I would say 5 games where he went out and laid an egg for a fantasy quarterback, especially one drafted at his position.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the death knell for Window.
Yeah, I will also say though, sometimes the fantasy gods start to correct things a little bit. Remember when Window was sitting like in first place, looking great, and now he's lost 3 straight games and he's down to 5th? And everyone was so pissed off because you know that he didn't deserve to be in first. He loses a game and was still outright in first. It was amazing. Like, and here he is in 5th place. Like 3 weeks ago, he's like, hey, I want insurance on if I'm going to make the playoffs. I was like, dude, fuck off. You're like 99% to make the playoffs. He might not make the playoffs.
I mean, we eyed a couple weeks ago when we saw the when I did the 3 weeks left in the season matchup calendar. I said at that point that James Window matchup was going to be a big one, and it has turned into a winner, like literally winner go home for the 2 of them. Like if they lose that game, they're fighting a major uphill battle to make the playoffs because of the people at 7-6 and 6-7 right now waiting in the wings. The Alex Burchocks, the Jason McMillans, even the Jason Smiths of the league. You know.
Yeah.
Speaking of Alex, holy shit. Man, oh man, that was an ass whooping.
I mean, I feel like that's happened like 5 times this year where somebody like explodes for 160 plus, and it's just like.
But have we seen 170?
I think so.
Someone in the chat spend some time digging through this season's games and find out the biggest score this season. I imagine this has got to be close to a league record.
It's definitely up there. I know McMillan opened with I think right around 160. I think I had a 150 plus point day. McMillan in week 2 put up 175.
Okay.
174.94. So like I said, there's been random spurts where someone will completely go off. And this is the same thing I've been kind of talking about. I've mentioned this multiple people now, where it's just in any given week, you might put up 70, you might put up 130. It's so volatile this year, it's ridiculous.
Well, think about this. What if Devontae Smith had himself a day, right? That could have been a 200-point performance. Because Kyler went off, Najee did fine. David Montgomery is looking like a steal of a trade. Justin Jefferson is a big boy. That was a home run pick for Alex, and I was big on him in the beginning of the year.
It was helpful in that game in particular. A, he got the Lions. B, Adam Thielen went down in the first quarter.
Yeah, and so they were force feeding Justin Jefferson because that's all they could do. And that game was a close game, so they were throwing late. Colts defense getting 18 obviously helps, but Alex has some dangerous players. Keep in mind Antonio Brown was out during this game. Alex has some dangerous fucking players on his team. And not to mention Debo's was on the IR. Like, that's a scary lineup. Kyler, Najee, David Montgomery, Justin Jefferson, Debo, maybe Josh Jacobs, maybe Antonio Brown, Matt Stafford. That's scary. I don't want to play that.
I mean, he's first in points scored right now for a reason. Like,
Yeah. And we thought no one could catch McMillan. Alex finally got him. And it's just mean though that it happened against Brad. Like, you're already gonna win. Why?
Brad didn't have a terrible day.
No, he didn't. Why go that hard?
It is, like I said, it's kind of gross. Like, don't get me wrong, he didn't have a good day. He was still 8th in points scored this week. But like, if he plays Zach or McMillan, he wins handily.
Yeah.
This is another reason why I actually have been keeping track all year. I'm gonna put them out for the end of the year podcast. But the rule proposal change that like Zach and I were talking about, where like either you play the top, like you get 2 matchups each week, where you play the top 5 or you play the average. I have been keeping track of that. I have it all there right now. I'm a little curious how it's going to eventually shake out. I've been, like I said, I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly. Most of the top like 4 are obviously the same, because when you have McMillan and Alex just like dropping 150 points a week, like obviously
Sure.
they're still going to be at the top of the standings there. But honestly, like McMillan might be in one of those spots right now where like he'd probably have a bye right now if we had done that system. But instead, he's at right now looking like his best shot is the wild card.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, it is a game of like I understand the logic for it. I wasn't necessarily super against that rule change. I tend to like wins and losses though, and I like a little like much in the way of like defenses. I like a little element of randomness. I like a little bit of like like a little controlled chaos.
No, and that's why that system is exactly that though. 50% of it is the random matchup you got that week.
Yeah.
Just kind of reels it in a little bit.
AB isn't playing again, Jason Smith says.
Yeah, I think he was out 3 weeks, I think is what his suspension was.
Wow. That's so funny. Moving on to your matchup, talk about skinning your teeth. And yeah, mine was a 6-point margin of victory. Yours was a little over 3.
So, yeah.
Whew. How you feeling?
I was sweating it out last night.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm a little frustrated. Like, Gardner Minshew comes out of nowhere to get him 19. He was dumb. Started Alex Collins, who didn't play. And it's not like he didn't like look at his lineup before. Like, he put Gardner Minshew in after noon on Sunday. So the fact that he still started Alex Collins didn't really make sense to me. But I will say, look at his bench.
No one scored.
Who else was he going to start?
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman, who got him 0. Yeah, I mean, Rashad Bateman, I think, is pretty much it. I think everyone else was hurt.
Didn't matter.
Hurt or on a bye. So it was like maybe he picks up some random person off the waiver wire, but like that's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So I ain't mad. I'll take the win.
I mean, that would have been the best. What he should have done. I don't know what time. I don't know what time the Seahawks game was, but he should have dropped.
I think it was a 4:00 game.
Yeah, he should have dropped. Hold on, one top score every week. Brad says 174.3 was the score. So wait, if 174 is what he's saying. Oh, there was week 5 was 176. I see. Okay, so 176 is the highest we've had. Anyway, thanks, Brad.
So yeah, like a third of the time, somebody puts up 170 plus.
A quarter of the time, but it is still insane. Yeah, so, I mean, in your matchup, the things I noticed, Deontay has been on a tear lately. I mean, both teams had guys going, like...
Ben Roethlisberger could only complete passes to Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger, I think, threw for like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and like 105 of it, and both touchdowns were to Deontay Johnson. It was ridiculous.
Absolutely. This was a big win for you, obviously, and again in double must-win territory. It was also a big missed opportunity for James, because if he had, let's say he adds, like, I mean, are you really gonna be starting Rashad Bateman through the year? You know, I understand like Jordan Howard, I guess, because maybe he's like, Philly's a questionable running back committee. But, like, do you really need Jeff Wilson Jr. then? Like, you have, like, these mediocre running backs. You can't drop one of them and get just some plug-in player for a 4 o'clock game to replace Alex Collins, and you win this game, and you're now the number 2 over. If James wins, he's the number 2 overall seed and is basically locked up for playoffs.
So I'm trying to see like who he would have picked up. Like looking at the top scores, who reasonably would he have picked up?
Take a look.
Maybe you pick up Mike Davis. Like the first 5 guys on the list here, I'm like, I don't think you're picking up Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deontay Harris, Travis Homer. Actually, Travis Homer might have been the guy to pick up since he was the running back for Seattle who actually played.
Yeah, you pick up his backup, or like you said, pick up Mike Davis.
Maybe Mike Davis.
But
again, you don't expect a lot out of Mike Davis because Cordarrelle Patterson's been getting all the work.
He didn't need a lot.
I'll say saying he. I mean, obviously, there was a reason that he kept him in his lineup. I do not know exactly what it is right now.
He didn't. He doesn't like scoring.
He did not know. So I'm assuming that he expected Alex Collins to play, and then he didn't.
Well, and I guess it might be a similar situation to the reason McMillan started Darrell Henderson. Like, and I guess, and I will say, I know in Darrell Henderson's case, he was active, but just like we knew it was gonna be a limited snap count.
Yeah,
and it just happened to be none.
At 9:30 a.m., it said that Collins is questionable to play. At 3:04 p.m. is when he was listed as inactive. So it could have just been 1 o'clock games have started. The last he saw was that he's still, I guess, expected to play. Like they hadn't ruled him out at 1 o'clock, so he assumed he was going to play. I mean, obviously, I don't know,
but he's ruled out an hour before game time. He wasn't checking his lineup.
I will say sometimes people have things going on and they don't check their lineup in the middle of the games.
Look, I get it. I'm just saying for someone who is.
I mean, I don't get it. I'm always checking my lineup.
I
was getting a Christmas tree and watching my scores, bro.
He is now because of that missed opportunity. He is now on it really at a win or go home situation. He is now like in must-win territory that he wouldn't need to be in otherwise in all likelihood.
Yeah. I will say though, like he did get a little lucky on some things. Like realistically speaking here, Alvin Kamara was a game time decision after a bye and then didn't play. And what do? I start Mark Ingram in not a great matchup. I would have started either Miles Sanders or Tevin Coleman. Is he really making up an extra 12 points or an extra 10 points there? Like, I mean, there's always these little things that go into each week where it's like, oh, well, this one thing had been different. Like, I don't know. It's like we sit here and look at it. It's like, okay, well, if Deontay Johnson didn't double his expected performance, it wouldn't have even been close.
Sure, but
there's always little things like this.
You can always play the what-if game, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All that matters is I got the dub. I'm going to make the playoffs. That's what matters.
You're going to make the playoffs if you win, and we'll get to that. Last matchup, and probably the one with the biggest implications for the league. McMillan
takes the L. Like, I'm so mad that Zach gets a win being 9th in points scored. Like, why can't that ever happen to me? That never happens to me. It happened to Window like 8 times this year. But...
Oh, that's funny. No, I mean, this was the ultimate, like, I imagine, like, McMillan rooting for Zach to win, and just, like, flipping off the rest of the league as it happens, because
like,
this was
McMillan
the worst. This is the worst thing for people who were hoping. I mean, it actually doesn't matter for you, because you were never in wild card territory.
I never had to worry about it. But you know who this really hurts?
Jason Smith.
Yeah, and who really should be wanting 18 playoff right now?
Jason Smith.
Jason Smith.
Because this was honestly this
was worst case scenario for Jason.
Absolutely, not only losing to me, but more importantly, he was rooting as the game went on against as we were watching the Caps game and also watching the Bills. He was rooting for the Bills defense and he was just like hoping for like a pick six or a touchdown or something. Because he knew it was more important that McMillan lost. Josh Allen was going to get something. But it was more important that McMillan got the win. And
yeah. much more important that McMillan would win there than Jason taking the L.
And now
It's gross.
McMillan is in, well, I think like 7th place in the standings, maybe.
So this is
Or
another
8th?
thing. This is another thing where I don't think it would have made a difference because he didn't have really any other running back that would have made a difference in the matchup. But this is now at least twice this year. I think I can think of at least once last. Actually, no. This is the third time this year, and I can think of other years where people end up starting people who aren't playing, and this has huge fantasy football implications here. Like, I don't want, like, I'm not saying that McMillan did this intentionally, but like, this is essentially as close as you can get to like throwing this game.
No, this is the same.
No,
this
no.
is actually like if you're talking about the Daryl Henderson thing, the
No,
Daryl.
it's very similar with James too. It's like not having a starting player in this lineup when this, like, because here's the thing, it doesn't just affect McMillan and it doesn't just affect James.
Hold on. It's more. This is more forgivable because Daryl Henderson was active again.
Okay. Yes, that's fine. So this is actually, I think, the second time though that James had started somebody who was inactive for the game.
Right, and that again.
And you got to start. You got we got to have some type of thing that's like you got to make sure you're starting a real lineup here.
Right.
Like it's one thing if you booked a win and you don't play people because you want the win.
Right.
But when it's those, like, man, these lineups are just, or these matchups are just so close.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't want to toot our own horn, right? But we sat here a week ago and we told McMillan, hey, you should consider starting Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. And if he listens to us, he wins.
Even with Daryl Henderson out.
Period. Doesn't matter who he takes out. Even if Daryl Henderson's in, keep Daryl Henderson, James Conner in, right? Literally any wide receiver, if he, save for, let me see, hold on.
Renfro.
And I think Renfro.
5.1 extra points, would that have given him the win?
5.1,
that
91.
He would have lost
by 0.02.
Oh
I
my
wish
God,
that had happened.
That'd have been so much more gross with Daryl Henderson not playing.
But, I mean, so like, and actually he might have done that, to be honest. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, it would have given him a better chance to win regardless. And it would also put him even with Alex basically on points scored, or like a little bit ahead of Alex on points scored. Like, maybe listen to us. We know what we're talking about. Daryl Henderson was not expected to get a single snap. Look at news, is what Jason Smith says. I understand. I'm just saying he was active. It's more forgivable for me if someone's active, not expected to play,
versus
than
literally
inactive.
Hour before the game, this guy is not going to be in the game. Like,
change your lineup.
It's different.
As for Zach, I mean, I understand why you're mad because he had Devontae Adams out, he had Darren Waller out, he had Jalen Hurts out.
Yeah, and DeAndre Swift out.
I mean, there's no reason he should win this game.
No, absolutely none. The fact that Zach is at 7 wins right now kind of bugs me. Like, one of them was going to be at 7 wins.
It's huge. So let's finish. Let's end the recap and let's go into this is a little creation of mine that I've made for everybody. And I won't be able to see the chat for a little while, and I apologize in advance. But this is the playoff scenarios. And we'll start at the top of the standings and work our way down. So, obviously, I'm 8-5. I am 4th in scoring at 1,580 points. I am, as Jerry said earlier, guaranteed to make the playoffs. Zach did calculations. He ran, I think, 10,000 simulations of the league season. A million simulations of the league season.
I thought that's the last thing he said was a million.
And 92.3% of the time, I ended up having a bye. And I'm guaranteed
you can still get a bye.
Absolutely. If I beat Daryl, I get a bye. Or if Alex loses to McMillan, I get a bye. Or if you lose to Zach, I get a bye.
It'd be really great if you didn't have the bye, though.
No, why? Fuck you. I think I might have had that backwards. I might have had if you beat Zach. Because then you'd be 8-5, and I don't think there's any way you.
Yeah, I'm not catching you on points. Yeah, so it would be me beating Zach.
Yeah, sorry, I had that.
So you're rooting for me this week.
Yeah, so I am rooting for you. I'm rooting for McMillan, and I am rooting for myself, obviously, against Daryl, because any of the 3 scenarios means I get a bye.
Sean, wouldn't it be great if we had a rematch of our championship?
Only if I can win this time.
From week 3. No, that won't happen.
Moving on, let's go to Alex. Um, let me see if I can. Should have. This is
I'm a
dumb.
little curious. I mean, I can see it on mine since you sent it to me, but I'm a little. I can kind of speak to it quickly.
Here we
Alex,
go.
97% to make the playoffs. I'd love to know the 3% that he doesn't is if he loses and he's in a weird tiebreaker with McMillan and they're both in the bottom five. Like, I don't know how he doesn't get in right now, but
Well, I'll explain. So the way he doesn't get in, it obviously starts with um if he loses to McMillan, right? Because if he loses to McMillan, then it's up to the standings, right? But let's say in a scenario where he loses to McMillan and Daryl beats me, well then all of a sudden they're going to be guaranteed at least 4 8-win teams above him in the standings. And then it comes down to, well, Jason Smith in theory could overtake. I mean, I think the only people in striking distance in the standings are like maybe Jason Smith and McMillan. So like, if Jason
yeah.
Smith can get
I
that
guess if they if
fifth
both
seed,
if they're both down there and okay, I got it.
you see what I'm saying?
Still pretty unlikely, 97% to make the playoffs. I think
And
Alex is sitting pretty right now.
and a 50.4% chance of getting a bye. Basically, if Alex wins, not only is he guaranteed playoffs, he's guaranteed a bye essentially. If Alex loses, he can still get it as long as I beat Daryl, or I think Brad beats Jason Smith would end it. Would guarantee he's making the playoffs either way, because then it's basically him or McMillan are going to be the wild card, and the other one's going to be the 5th seed. So I guess I gotta redo this every time.
Can I say though, if this is a little weird, just looking at this, like, sorry, this is a little bit of a derailment while you're getting the thing back up there. The pairings of the matchups for the final week of the season are really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's so just really quick, I'll run through it. Me and Zach, obviously the ones closest to DC, Bethesda, you know, you and Daryl lived together in college and everything. Jason and Brad, both of the Northern Virginia guys out there near Herndon, Reston. Window and James, kind of the outside guys that like aren't as connected to anybody, and then Alex and McMillan, the two Pittsburgh, the two Hagerstown guys. Like, I feel like this is like an interesting pairing for each one of these matchups.
Absolutely. No, I mean, this is like, and well, this is what's cool about the league, right? Is every, like, if it had been you and I, it's like, oh, that's the co-host, the normal co-host of the podcast playing. Like, there's like the great part about this league in 13 seasons is we've all gotten so interconnected that everybody is, you know, like matchups take on their own flavor based on, you know, the players involved. But I totally get your point. I do. We said this on the Facebook group. We're gonna try to do a league event on Sunday. I think Brad is gonna host, if I'm correct. If there's interest, so I would strongly, if you guys have any interest in going, like I as always, I will drive anyone who comes to Frederick down to Reston or to Brad's place, wherever, I don't care. But I would love to get us all together and watch this, like, especially with this season being so up in the air, to watch some games together. It'd be great. Because we really haven't had a league event aside from like the New York event and maybe one other. So anyway,
if we can, yeah, I'm a little sad that we didn't do like a playing football one like we did last year.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that again next year.
We could do it first week of the playoffs. I'm here for it.
It's too cold now. Actually, no, it's not.
It's not too cold.
Moving on to Zach, currently number 3 seed, 5th in scoring right now. He actually does have a decent chance of the playoffs, 56.8%, and a 32.1% chance of the bye. I assume that elevated percentage is just because he has opportunities, even if he loses, to kind of sneak into the wild card picture, depending upon how that all shakes out. But it is, or to sneak into maybe like a 5th seed scenario. He actually has a decent chance of a bye too. He's guaranteed the playoffs with a win over you. He is guaranteed also a first round bye if he wins and Alex loses, based on like the point differentials. I'm assuming in these guaranteed scenarios that no one's going to gain like 80 to 100 points on each other. You know, even in the matchup this week with, yes, it could happen, but like even in the matchup this week with Brad, it was like a 70-point margin of victory. So I'm assuming nothing exponentially crazy in these scenarios. So now on to James. who is also in the 7-6 log jam, sixth in total points scored. He's currently the number 4 seed. Most of these guys you're going to see, and I think Zach posted in the Facebook group about this. Like, most of these guys have about a 50% chance of the playoffs, maybe a little bit more. And it's basically because it is win or go home. You have a 50-50 chance to win. He does also have an actual decent, and both he and Window have kind of similar chances of playoffs and bye. Again, it's a must-win for both James and Window in order to guarantee the playoffs. They can also get a bye with a win, with Alex losing to McMillan and with Zach losing to you. And same thing for Window as it is for James. The only difference is it's slightly lower chances, I think, based on the I think slightly lower chance of a bye just based on the tiebreakers, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, total points scored. Obviously, you
but
have to make up different points.
It's the same scenarios. He's still rooting for Alex to lose to McMillan. He's still rooting for Zach to lose to you, and he still needs to beat James.
I'm pretty sure everybody in the league wants me to beat Zach this week except for Zach.
Yeah, pretty much. Moving on to Daryl. Literally a 50% chance of playoffs in this scenario, like 50.01, I think it was. He's a 6th seed now. He's 9th in total points scored. There's no chance for you and Daryl to get the tiebreaker, the wild card rather. It's win or go home. It's you have to beat me and to get to the playoffs if you want that.
Yeah.
And for you, it's very similar.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, you have a 0.1% chance higher in Zach's simulations.
I'm a little hurt though that you didn't include my chances of getting a bye in this.
How would you get a bye?
Really simply, I can tell you exactly how. Well, first of all, obviously I have to win. I would then need Window to win with his if Window matches his lowest points of the year and wins, which let's be real, Window's had that happen. He did it already. He got a win with his lowest points of the year, by the way, at like 72 points. And if I match my highest of the year, I would get a bye. Window wins with his lowest. I win with my highest of the year. I get a bye.
I think the odds of that happening are so astronomically low.
I would say it's about half of 1%.
I'd go less. The odds of him winning
literally,
was 70.
Zach literally did the thing. It was 0.05%.
All right.
He did it. That's why I'm saying it. That's why I'm like, I don't know why you didn't include it.
I'm not including these situations because I did kind of. Again, this is simplified, streamlined. This is just your realistically what you need to happen. Like, yes, are there situations where you or Daryl or someone could get a bye? I guess. But realistically, the odds of that happening are slim to none. Moving on to McMillan, who actually has, as Zach noted, an extremely high chance of making the playoffs, even though he's not getting a bye. All he has to do is beat Alex, and he's in. Assuming he doesn't beat Alex, as long as Jason Smith doesn't outscore him by 44.18, he's in. That's it, really, for him, because Jason Smith's the only person who can realistically catch him. I don't think Zach can, and in a losing effort. So I think this is kind of that's the general standings for McMillan. As for Jason, this is where it kind of gets the most complicated. Zach didn't specify the exact percentage chance he has to make the playoffs, but he indicated it was less than 50%. There's a lot that needs to happen for Jason to be guaranteed a playoff spot.
I mean, this is like a weird way you're wording it right now. Like, guaranteed. Like, it's the last week of the season. Like, do all these things have to happen or not for him to make the playoffs?
So, not all... there's so many variables in this situation, right? It was tough for Jason, on all the contingencies to make a situation where, he's in if he does this one thing. The things that he would need to happen, he does need to beat Brad. Or, I think, if he outscores McMillan by 44.19, I think it is, he would surpass McMillan for wild card position. Obviously, a lot depends upon where the Alex McMillan matchup as far as because if McMillan wins, they're both 7-7, and they're going to be they're going to be at least 3 teams with 8 wins, with at least 8 wins after this week, because someone has to win your matchup with Zach. Someone has to win. Who was it? My match. Oh, I mean, I already have 8 wins, so even if Daryl loses, I'm gonna be above 8 wins. And someone has to win. Who's the other matchup? Oh, James and Window. So those 3 matchups are all guaranteed to produce an 8-win player. So already that's
I think the most there can be is 5 8-win teams after this week.
No, there can only. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You are correct.
That's the most there can be is 5.
Correct.
So 8 wins and you're in. It was still an appropriate title a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, let's say in theory, right? Like that's why there's so many contingencies here, because it's obviously if Jason can get to 7 wins, if he can beat Brad, and then things start breaking in a favorable way for him. Big one is if I beat Daryl, that's 1 less 8-win team right there that he's going to beat on tiebreakers. Same thing if McMillan beats Alex, it's 1 less 8-win team. And granted, yes, Alex right now leads the tiebreaker scenario, and McMillan's right on his tail, and Smith's a little bit behind. But the 3 of them are the top of the league in total points scored. So the margins right now between kind of like Alex is like 5 points ahead of McMillan. McMillan is 44 points ahead of Jason Smith. Jason Smith is 43 points ahead of Zach. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of what you need to do to catch your opponents. But a lot's going to depend upon who wins my game with Daryl, Windows game with James, and your game with Zach, because it's going to create 8-win teams. It's going to shape who is in that 7-win tiebreaker. And I am a man of my word. I did make a slide for Brad. He is 3-10.
So shout out Zach on the pod.
Is he on the chat now?
Zach's just in the chat.
Nice. Shout out to Zach. He was actually trying to be on the pod tonight. I was going to do a 3-host thing, but he got swamped with work at the last minute. But thank you, Zach, for joining the chat, and wish you could have been on the pod tonight. And thank you for the running that simulation, because it definitely helped with this. So here's Brad's slide. He's 3-10. He's actually 8th in scoring, so kudos. He has a 0% chance of the playoffs. He is guaranteed the playoffs if hell freezes over.
I mean, there's better than a 0%.
No, there's not. It's a 0% chance. There is no way he can make the playoffs.
If he outscores McMillan by 200, I still don't know if he makes the play.
Right. Like, there's just no way. Sorry, Brad. I guess if every one of your guys has a 50 burger, maybe you've got a shot for the wild card. But like, he's just got too much work to do, and realistically, there's just no way.
Jesus, no. He'd still be like 70 points shy of McMillan if he beats him by 200 this week.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just no way.
There's no way. It'd be nice if he could have gotten a win. Would have been. I probably would already be in the playoffs if Brad could have gotten a couple wins the last few weeks. But
even then, I mean, he's 3-10, and the closest. Like, we're talking about people are making the playoffs are going to make the playoffs based on standings with 8 and 7 wins. We still have 4 wins off the trail.
Yeah.
So that's our playoff scenarios. Let's get into our predictions. Now, obviously these predictions are going to be a little bit skewed because we haven't processed the waiver wire. We haven't processed, people probably haven't set their full lineups yet if they have players on buys, if they're waiting for the waiver wires.
Brad was Brad was in the chat. Brad, you need to set, can you at least shift some stuff around so we can see kind of where your projection is supposed to be? I see you're commenting on the pod right now. Let's go ahead and do that. How about you switch in Adam Jones, because I'm pretty sure you're going to start him.
But again, so for
Said Adam, I meant Aaron. You know what I meant.
Pac-Man Jones? Pac-Man
Jones, get him.
For my matchup with Daryl, for example, I am right now without a tight end. So I am projected to lose by 17. And I have some bye week issues this week. Jonathan Taylor on a bye. Jalen Waddle on a bye. Mike Gesicki on a bye, hence the tight end issues. Mac Jones on a bye, but that doesn't really matter. Jacoby Myers on a bye doesn't really matter. But I'm losing the best running back in football, maybe the best player in football right now, and I'm losing one of my two starting wide receivers. And Daryl doesn't have really any major bye week issues aside from, I guess, Damian Harris and Carson Wentz. So I'd say I'm taking the worst of the bye week pain.
Yeah. Again, your matchup is you're in the playoffs. I hope you win, but I don't want any more 8-win teams than there need to be when I get to my 8 wins.
Everyone's rooting for me. Who you got?
I don't want to, but I think I'm gonna have to still go with Daryl. I don't like starting both Chubb and Hunt. Obviously, you don't have a tight end right now. I don't know the severity of Joe Burrow's injury, but don't love it. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be going with Daryl this week.
Yeah, they said he could be limited with in practice. He dislocated his right pinky finger, but according to head coach Zach Taylor, Burrow feels good after playing through the injury. They're probably going to do some maintenance, try to relieve the pressure on the finger, but doesn't look like any major risk of missing the game.
Okay.
So, I will also go Daryl. Unlike you, I actually don't mind starting Chubb and Hunt. They've proven to be serviceable as a tandem when both have been healthy, and this is the first week that both appear to be healthy. They're coming off a bye week. There are concerns I have in my lineup. Obviously, not having a tight end is one of them. Obviously, Jamal Williams is a variable because he was starting last week. I don't know if he'll continue to start. There's a lot of variables here. I'd probably start Darnell Mooney if Jamal Williams didn't get... If DeAndre Swift was playing. That would bump my projection up by 2 points. No, it wouldn't. It would bump it down by 0.7. But I do generally like some of Daryl's matchups. He's got Taysom Hill going against the Jets. Cordell Patterson's been great, and they're going against the Panthers, who have been suspect as of late. He's got the Saints D playing the Jets. Now, granted, the Jets do seem to have gotten something together offensively lately. I think they put up 30 last week, but I generally like some of Daryl's matchups, and more importantly, I just think I've got too much to overcome with the bye week. I think this is where my winning streak ends. I think Daryl's going to win and get to 8 wins. Next up, Brad said he set his lineup, so I'm going to try to reset this and make sure he said, there's my top projected lineup. Can you put each matchup on the screen while you're talking about it? Oh, I didn't even have the matchup. I'm so sorry. I must have the browser off on my screen. I apologize. Here's the matchup for Jason Smith and Brad. Jason, after a tough loss last week, gets his Brad bye. I mean, do we have to waste too much time?
No. I mean, I'm not picking Brad, so.
Like, Brad's lineup doesn't look terrible on paper, but Jason Smith's team, again, just looks so good. Sherbert, Mixon, Kamara, Reek, Cooper Cup of Coffee, Dalton Schultz even, Leonard Fournette, Kirk Cousins. Like, literally all of his players are top 10 at their positions, save for Alvin Kamara, who's 15. And that's because he's starting Kamara over Zeke, who's 9th at his position. Like, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be, the projection has to be Jason Smith.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm going with him.
This is the more interesting matchup to go to. James and Window with a razor-thin projection. Right now, the line is, what, 3.5?
Yeah.
This one could go either way. And like every matchup, seemingly this week, it's win or go home.
Yeah, think I think I'm gonna go window. I think Patrick Mahomes is on his way up. Javonte Williams gets Detroit, and he looked really good last week. Yeah, I think that's the route that I'm gonna go this time.
So James has a giant Baltimore stack. Like a three-way Baltimore stack with Devontae Freeman, Marquise Brown, and Mark Andrews. It's just going to come down to that Cleveland Baltimore game. Not to mention he's got Jarvis Landry right now starting in that game.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if Dalvin Cook. I don't think Dalvin Cook is going to be back in time.
he still has Alexander Madison though.
He
Like
does.
he's fine in that spot.
No, I do agree with that. He's got some other injury question marks on his bench. I will predict window.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know that it's close. I question Dontrell Hilliard at the flex, but I think window overall, like you said, I think if window has the bigger boom or bust players, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I'm a little curious, like if he does start like Kyle Pitts, or if he's going to roll with Dawson Knox. Don't love the fact that like Dontrell Hilliard.
Like it's
Yeah, I
it's
don't
an
know.
interesting start because he's done fine in his two starts to date, right? He's put up 12.2 and 17.8, but
Yeah,
when you look closer, he's had less than he's averaging less than 10 carries a game. And the first game was buoyed by the fact that he had 8 catches. That's 4 points right there just for the catches alone, not to mention 4.7 for the yardage involved in the catches. And in week 12, he did rush for 131 yards and he had a touchdown. So but it was on 12 carries. Like, is that production sustainable? Like, are you really going to average over 10 yards a carry?
Yeah. I mean, no.
Right.
Like, obviously not.
Brad points out a good point here. He's projected above James and Window, who are essentially playing a play-in game. So, but we both go Window. So I think have we agreed on every matchup so far?
I think so.
Let's see if we agree on this one. The battle for Hagerstown. A critical battle for Hagerstown that's going to shape the standings, the wild card. Alex squeaked out the win in week 5 when they played each other last time. And the line currently is 16.7 in favor of Alex. Adam Thielen is doubtful. Surprisingly, James Conner finds himself on McMillan's bench. I guess because Chase Edmonds is finally coming back into the fold, but he is, to McMillan's credit, it seems like he finally heeded our advice. I mean, I'll be happy.
It's a big one. It's a big.
I'll be happy to say who I think is going to win this one because I don't think it's as. I think the line is appropriate. I think Alex has the major.
I need to click into McMillan's team to like actually see what his situation is.
Fair enough.
Because like, does he have someone who's currently like projected 0 and he just like hasn't touched it yet?
No. Everyone's got projections. It's got to be Alex, and the reasons why are because Kyler Murray is finally back healthy. Najee, Justin Jefferson are studs. Debo is projected to come back this week, and he was on the IR last week when Alex put up 174. You know, he's like Kyler Murray and Matt Stafford are beast quarterbacks for fantasy purposes. Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel are elite wide receivers
God,
for
you look at the
fantasy
check
purposes.
marks.
Like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's not
It's-
close.
It's Alex.
Yeah.
It's Alex. But we
Thank
also
you.
thought the same thing, that McMillan was just gonna like mollywop Zach, and it didn't happen. So
Anything can happen in fantasy.
anyone can have a down week, but yeah, right now I think I got to go with Alex.
So we agree on everything going into your matchup with Zach, which is the closest projection of the week, less than a point. 0.7 is the line in favor of you, I might add.
Yeah.
This is a really, really interesting game for you.
I mean,
tell me why you're gonna win.
Austin
Because I know you're predicting yourself. Obviously.
No, so I'm obviously picking myself, but like Austin Eckler versus the Giants, love it. Chuba Hubbard against Atlanta, love it. Ben Roethlisberger against Minnesota. Minnesota's 28th against quarterbacks. The one real big question mark that I have right now is that Keenan Allen tested positive for COVID yesterday.
Ooh.
He can still clear protocols. He has to have 2 negative tests like 24 hours apart before the game. He is vaccinated, so like he has a real chance of still being in it. Apparently he has not been symptomatic at all. The last thing I read was like he tested positive. It was just like a routine test. It wasn't like he was feeling off. So like definitely could still come back. I will say that if he's not able to play, I actually don't hate my other situation, which would be to start Julio against the Jaguars coming off the hour. No AJ Brown, no Derrick Henry. Like I'm not hating that scenario if I have to pull Keenan Allen out of my lineup. But no, like just looking at my matchups are actually like up and down pretty solid. I will honestly say I didn't look too closely at his matchups, but like outside of TJ Hawkinson, like everyone I'm playing against is like 18th, 25th, 26th, 23rd, 21st, 28th, 14th. Like I've pretty favorable matchups this week.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying I pick you yet, but I don't disagree with you that your matchups are better on paper. The Keenan Allen issue I wasn't aware of, and that's actually a huge issue because assuming arguendo that Keenan Allen is out, Zach has Mike Williams, and you imagine that they're gonna throw the ball.
I mean, so here's the thing: they play different roles.
True.
So like, I don't think it's gonna drastically increase Mike Williams. Like, he probably gets a little bit of an uptick in target share, but like,
well, it's a juicy matchup, like you said. I mean, the Giants aren't necessarily a good pass defense.
No, they're not great. But he's also starting Rex Burkhead right now, who in a game where the Patriots threw the ball 3 times, Rex Burkhead's managed 5 points. Oh, I'm sorry. Rex Burkhead doesn't even play for Patriots anymore.
Yes.
He plays for Houston, even worse.
He
plays for Houston. I'm mad.
It is a.
But again, 5 points. Like
it is
last
a
week.
difficult.
Is he actually getting the starting work in that offense right now? Like he had 8 carries against Indianapolis.
The issue for Zach is that DeAndre Swift is still out. Is questionable.
Yeah. I don't think he's expected to play.
I don't think so.
No Jalen Hurts.
Like they said he wouldn't play against, like, obviously he didn't play last week. The report last week was that he may be a week away from returning. It's an AC joint injury is the report. They were hoping it would be a 2-week absence in the worst case scenario, but they're not projecting him to start. And without DeAndre Swift starting, or without some kind of a backup option, because Myles Gaskin's also on bye, so it just fell at the worst possible time for Zach because he's got to start Rex Burkhead now unless he finds someone else on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and there's not a whole ton of
starting running backs on the waiver wire? No way.
Yeah.
The one saving grace for Zach, he's got Dak, he's got Elijah Mitchell, he's got Mike Evans, he's got.
Okay, so
Darren
I will
Waller.
also say Elijah Mitchell finished the game, went into the concussion protocol on Monday. What if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play?
Then he's done. I don't think Zach has a chance if Elijah Mitchell.
He entered it on a Monday after the game. Like,
but
that ain't great.
All I was saying was he's got Zach does have some high upside players. With that said, I do think, generally speaking, you hold the edge here. I am going to predict you based on matchups and based on like the injury issues that Zach is dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So we agree on every prediction.
Yeah. Which means obviously that's exactly how all 5 matchups are going to go this week.
Exactly. I think that's it for the pod. Thank you once again, Jerry, for being on the pod. Thank you guys in the chat. Oh, whoops. I just went blank. Thank you guys in the chat for participating. Jason Smith, Brad, Zach. Appreciate you guys listening in. And thank you to the guys who are listening to this after the fact. Let's see what happens. This is going to be really, really interesting. Like, I'm excited. And please, comment in the Facebook group. Let's see if we can't get a league event together. Like, it would be a really, really good way to end the season if we could get something together. Who knows? If we get enough interest, if we can get, like, all the Sacco folks there, maybe we can go to Waffle House.
I don't know where the closest Waffle House is. It might actually be Frederick.
Just saying.
You're just saying. And
Nicholas, I don't know who Nicholas is in the chat, but he says, "Yeah, go Jerry."
Yeah, that's Sam's younger brother.
Oh, this is Sam's brother. What's up, man? That we played FIFA with.
Get on FIFA after this.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and good luck to everybody. We'll be back next week with the post-regular season recap. We'll tell you who made the playoffs. We'll tell you who's in the Sacco Bowl. And we'll look into what's sure to be a wild quarterfinal round of the playoffs and semifinals of the Sacco. Good luck, buddy. See, the pressure's off for me. I've already made playoffs, so...
The pressure is what it is.
I just want that...
I'm confident. I know... What have I been saying all year? What have I been saying for 2 years now? Zach's team is trash.
That is actually a great point.
We got to remember this.
This is the ultimate.
I said his team was trash all year last year, and what did I do? I kicked his ass in the championship game. Said his team is trash all year this year. What am I going to do? I'm going to kick his ass into the Sacco Bowl.
This is the ultimate put up or shut up moment for Zach. Like because he can get revenge for you beating him in the final last year. And eliminate you from
like
the
what? Yeah, I was gonna say what better revenge for the championship game last year than to make sure I don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and on the other hand, if you beat him, you really are his kryptonite. Your argument maybe is valid.
Yeah, his team's trash.
Oh man, this is gonna be wild. All right, boys. Good luck. As always, hit us up on our YouTube page or Facebook if you have any fantasy questions, and we'll see you next week.